I am Justina, 32, a graphic designer who spent my life in my sister's shadow. Every achievement measured against Amanda's perfection. When the economy crashed, I lost my job and depleted my savings. Moving back home was supposed to be temporary, but it became a daily reminder of never measuring up. That morning when my mother sneered, "You'll never be as good as your sister," something inside me snapped. I stood up, looked her straight in the eyes, and replied, "Then ask her to pay." The room fell silent. Before I tell you how I finally stood up to my mother after 32 years, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to like this video if you've ever felt compared to someone else. Growing up in suburban Boston, I always felt like a supporting character in the Amanda Show. My sister was 5 years older, and from the moment she entered kindergarten, she was destined for greatness. Perfect grades, perfect friends, perfect everything. Our home was nice enough, a colonial-style house with 4 bedrooms in a good school district. My parents, Caroline and Thomas, worked hard to give us a comfortable middle-class life. My father ran a small insurance agency while my mother worked part-time as a real estate agent. But appearances mattered too much to my mother. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" became the soundtrack of my childhood. At Thanksgiving dinners, my mother would announce Amanda's latest achievement before anyone could even ask about me. "Amanda just got straight A's again," or "Amanda was selected for the Honor Society," while I sat there pushing food around my plate. When Amanda became valedictorian and received a full scholarship to Cornell, you would have thought my mother had personally achieved it herself. The way she bragged to the neighbors, her friends, even strangers at the grocery store, it was as if Amanda was an extension of her own success. I wasn't a bad student. I got mostly B's with the occasional A in subjects I enjoyed. But my interests were different. I loved art, design, photography, creative pursuits that my mother dismissed as just hobbies. "You can't make a living drawing pictures," she'd say whenever I showed her my artwork. My father was kinder but passive. He'd wink at me across the dinner table when my mother started her comparisons, but he never actually stood up to her. His way of dealing with conflict was to avoid it entirely, disappearing into his home office with the excuse of paperwork to finish. Amanda graduated from Cornell with honors, then went on to law school at Columbia. Now she was a corporate lawyer at a prestigious firm in New York, making the kind of money that impressed my mother. The perfect daughter. What nobody talked about was how rarely Amanda came home to visit. There were always excuses. Too busy with cases, couldn't get away from the office. I noticed the tension in their phone conversations, the way my mother's voice changed to that high-pitched, overly cheerful tone she used when she wanted something. Later, I would discover why Amanda kept her distance, but back then I just assumed she was too important for family time. Meanwhile, I was developing a quiet strength of my own, even if nobody in my family noticed. I attended the State University studying graphic design. Those 4 years were transformative, finally away from my mother's constant comparisons and criticisms. For the first time, I could just be Justina, not Amanda's less impressive sister. I found friends who appreciated my creativity. Lisa, my roommate, would sit for hours watching me work on designs, genuinely impressed by what I created. James, a photography major, who later became a close friend, collaborated with me on projects that won department recognition. "You have a unique eye," my professors would tell me. "Your compositions tell stories." After graduation, I landed a job at a small design agency in Boston. The pay wasn't great, but I was building my portfolio and reputation. 2 years later, I got an opportunity at a larger agency in Chicago. Moving to the Midwest was scary, but I was excited to build my own life. Chicago embraced me. My industrial loft apartment became my sanctuary. Exposed brick walls covered with art, large windows letting in natural light, perfect for my creative work. I dated a writer named Brian for almost a year, but the relationship ended when he took a job in California and I wasn't ready to uproot my life again. By 30, I had established myself as a respected designer specializing in branding for small businesses. I wasn't rich, but I was comfortable, and more importantly, I was proud of what I'd built without family connections or advantages. Then the pandemic hit, followed by economic turmoil. Businesses cut their marketing budgets first. My agency laid off half its staff, including me. I freelanced to make ends meet, but new contracts became scarce as the economy worsened. After 6 months of watching my savings dwindle while rent and bills remained constant, I faced a devastating reality: I needed to move back home. My mother sounded almost pleased when I called to ask if I could stay temporarily. "Of course, honey. That's what family is for." I packed my car with essentials and put the rest in storage, telling myself this was just a short setback. 3 months, maybe 6 at most, until I found another position or built up enough freelance work. "I'll support you however I can," my mother promised. If only I had known what that support would actually look like. The house looked exactly the same as when I left it years ago. My childhood bedroom was preserved like a museum exhibit. Same purple comforter, same posters on the wall, though faded now, same desk where I'd spent hours drawing instead of studying. Amanda's room, on the other hand, had been transformed into a shrine to her accomplishments. Law school diploma in a custom frame, photos of her shaking hands with judges and politicians, newspaper clippings about cases she'd worked on, all prominently displayed. The first week wasn't terrible. My mother maintained a veneer of pleasantness, asking about my job search over breakfast, making my favorite meals for dinner. My father seemed genuinely happy to have me home, asking about my design projects with sincere interest. But by week 2, the facade began to crack. My mother's questions about job applications became interrogations. "Why haven't you heard back from that company yet? Did you follow up?" When Amanda was job hunting, she always called to follow up. Every morning I'd sit at the kitchen table with my laptop, searching job boards, sending applications, and trying to secure freelance projects. My mother would hover, looking over my shoulder. "Is that what graphic designers make these days? Amanda made twice that her first year at the firm." I found a small freelance project designing a logo for a local bakery. Instead of congratulating me, my mother frowned. "That's nice, dear. Just a shame you couldn't find something more substantial, like Amanda's career." Thanksgiving was particularly brutal. My Aunt Julia asked what I was working on, showing genuine interest. Before I could answer, my mother jumped in. "Oh, Justina is between jobs right now, living with us until she gets back on her feet. Not everyone can be as driven as Amanda, you know." My aunt looked uncomfortable. "Well, I think graphic design sounds fascinating. My company just paid a fortune for a new website design." "Amanda just won a major case," my mother interrupted. "Her firm is talking about making her partner early." I excused myself to the bathroom and cried silently for 5 minutes before returning with a fake smile. My father would pat my shoulder after these incidents, whispering, "Your mother means well. She just worries." But he never challenged her, never defended me. The constant criticism was wearing me down. I stopped calling friends, embarrassed by my situation. My sleep became restless. Some mornings I could barely force myself out of bed, knowing another day of judgment awaited me. The few freelance projects I managed to secure became my lifeline. I'd work late into the night when the house was quiet, finding solace in creative work that had once brought me joy. I joined online communities of other designers, seeking the validation and connection I couldn't get at home. But even these small victories were diminished. When I showed my mother a website I designed that the client loved, she glanced at it and said, "That's nice. Did they pay you yet?" Amanda just got another bonus. 3 months into my stay, I accidentally discovered the truth about my parents' finances. I wasn't snooping. I was looking for stamps in my father's desk drawer when I found past due notices from the bank. Later that night, I overheard them arguing in their bedroom. "We can't keep spending like this, Caroline," my father said, his voice uncharacteristically firm. "The business is barely staying afloat." "What do you expect me to do?" my mother snapped back. "Start shopping at discount stores. What would people think?" "I'm thinking about what the bank will think when we can't make the mortgage payment again." I was stunned. The house I'd grown up in, the comfortable lifestyle my parents maintained, it was a facade crumbling under financial strain. The next morning, I offered to contribute part of the payment from my latest freelance project toward household expenses. My mother looked offended. We're not charity cases, Justina. Besides, that little bit wouldn't make a difference anyway. Then, almost immediately, if you had a real job like Amanda, maybe you could actually help. The irony wasn't lost on me. My help wasn't good enough yet, they clearly needed it. One day, while looking for a spare charger in Amanda's shrine of a room, I found a stack of letters in the desk drawer. I shouldn't have read them, but something compelled me to look. They were from my mother to Amanda, spanning the last few years. Reading them was like discovering an alternate reality. My perfect sister had apparently been lending our parents money, significant amounts, for years. The letters contained thinly veiled guilt trips about family obligation, references to temporary difficulties, and promises of repayment that clearly hadn't materialized. The most recent letter revealed that Amanda had finally started refusing the requests, which explained the increasing tension in their phone calls. I also found a birthday card from Amanda to me that my mother had apparently intercepted. Inside was a heartfelt message about being proud of my creative success and an apology for not being more present in my life due to her own complicated relationship with home. I put everything back where I found it, my mind reeling. The perfect daughter wasn't so perfect in my mother's eyes anymore, not since she'd closed the Bank of Amanda. And my sister, whom I'd resented for years, had been fighting her own battles with our mother's impossible standards. With new perspective, I started noticing more. The worn furniture carefully disguised with throws, my mother's designer clothes that she'd actually had for years, my father's increasing worry lines as he reviewed bills each evening. I took on more household responsibilities. Cooking meals, handling grocery shopping within a tight budget, even fixing the leaky faucet my father kept putting off. Through it all, my mother continued to criticize. My cooking wasn't as good as Amanda's, though I doubted Amanda cooked much in her Manhattan apartment. I wasn't shopping at the right stores, I was doing chores incorrectly. Each criticism stung less as I recognized the insecurity behind it. But the tension continued building toward an inevitable breaking point. The morning that changed everything started normally enough. I checked my email over coffee and found an offer for a 3-month contract with a promising startup. The money was good, not amazing, but steady income that would help me rebuild my savings and eventually move out. Excited, I decided to make my parents' favorite breakfast, blueberry pancakes with real maple syrup. A small celebration of this step forward. "What's all this?" my mother asked, entering the kitchen in her robe. "Good news," I said, flipping a perfectly golden pancake. "I got a contract with a tech startup. 3 months guaranteed work with possibility of extension." "Oh," her enthusiasm was notably absent. "Well, I suppose that's something. Is it full-time?" "It's 30 hours a week, but the hourly rate is good." When Amanda started at the firm, they immediately put her on partnership track with benefits. My father walked in, kissed my cheek, and said, "That's great, kiddo," before pouring coffee and retreating behind his newspaper. Throughout the day, my mother found ways to diminish my achievement. "Will this contract lead to anything permanent? And tech startups fail all the time, you know, and I hope you're still applying for real jobs." By dinner time, my excitement had been thoroughly deflated. I'd made lasagna, from scratch, including the pasta, hoping good food might improve the atmosphere. My mother took one bite and frowned. "It's a bit bland, isn't it? Amanda made us lasagna last Christmas when she visited, and it was so flavorful." My father silently ate, eyes fixed on his plate. "And the pasta's too thick," she continued. "Amanda's was much more delicate." Something inside me was stretching dangerously thin, like a rubber band pulled to its limit. "Amanda learned to cook in Italy during that summer program, you know. You could have done something like that if you'd applied yourself more." The rubber band snapped. "You'll never be as good as your sister," my mother sneered, twisting her fork in the supposedly inferior pasta. I placed my napkin beside my plate and slowly stood up. My heart was pounding, but my voice was steady as I looked directly into her eyes. "Then ask her to pay." The silence was absolute. My father's fork clattered against his plate. My mother's face froze in mid-sneer. "What did you just say?" she finally managed. "I said ask Amanda to pay. Since she's so much better than me. Since she's so successful. Since she's perfect." I was still standing still, maintaining eye contact. "But wait, you can't ask her anymore, can you? Because she finally stopped giving you money." My mother's face drained of color. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. I found the letters. I know about the loans. I know she's been supporting you for years because Dad's business is struggling and you refuse to cut back on expenses. I know she finally said no." My father put his head in his hands. "Justina, no, Dad. We're done pretending. We're done with the comparisons and the lies and the keeping up appearances. I'm not Amanda. I'll never be Amanda. And that's actually fine, because it turns out even Amanda can't live up to Mom's expectations." My mother tried to stand, but seemed unsteady on her feet. "How dare you speak to me like that, after all we've done for you? Done for me." My voice remained controlled, though my hands were shaking. "You've criticized every choice I've made. You've dismissed my career, my achievements, my entire identity because it doesn't match your expectations." "I only wanted what was best for you," she shouted. "No," I replied. "You wanted what looked best to other people." My father finally spoke up. "Caroline, this has gone too far. The girls are both suffering because of your expectations." My mother turned on him. "Oh, so now you find your voice, after 20 years of saying nothing." "Yes," he said quietly. "Because Justina is right." "About what?" "That we asked Amanda for help occasionally." "What's wrong with that?" "It wasn't occasional," I said. "And you didn't ask. You manipulated. You made her feel guilty for her success instead of proud of it." "That's absurd." I pulled out my phone. "Let's ask her, shall we?" My mother's eyes widened. "What are you doing?" I dialed Amanda's number and put the phone on speaker. When she answered, I said, "Amanda, it's Justina. You're on speaker with Mom and Dad." "Oh," her voice sounded immediately guarded. "Hi, everyone. What's going on?" "I found the letters," I said simply. The silence on the other end spoke volumes. "Amanda?" My mother prompted, her voice switching to the sweet tone she used when wanting something. "How much did they ask you for in total?" I asked. My sister sighed heavily. "About 80,000 over the last 6 years." My father closed his eyes in shame. "Did they ever pay any back?" I continued. "No." Her voice was barely audible. "And 2 months ago, when they asked for another 15,000 for emergency roof repairs, I finally said no." "There was nothing wrong with the roof," I confirmed. "I know," Amanda said. "I hired a home inspector to check before I refused. I'm sorry, Justina. I should have told you what was happening." "Why didn't you?" I asked. "Because I was ashamed," she admitted. "I was supposed to be the successful one, but I let them use me. And I was in therapy trying to deal with all the pressure. The perfect daughter isn't so perfect after all." My mother had sunk back into her chair, speechless for perhaps the first time in her life. "I never wanted to be put on a pedestal," Amanda continued. "Do you know what it's like to feel like one failure would mean losing your value to your own mother? I've been having panic attacks since college, terrified of disappointing everyone." "I'm so sorry," I told her. "I had no idea. I was too busy resenting you." "I don't blame you," she said. "I resented you too sometimes, for having the courage to follow your passion instead of the path laid out for you." My mother made a strangled sound somewhere between a gasp and a sob. "We need to talk," Amanda said firmly. "All of us. About boundaries and reality, and what family actually means. But not like this, not over the phone." We agreed she would visit that weekend. After we hung up, my mother burst into tears. Real ones, not the manipulative kind she usually employed. "I just wanted the best for both of you," she whispered. "No," I said gently but firmly. "You wanted the version of us that made you look good. And in the process, You hurt both of your daughters." My father reached across the table and took my hand. "I should have stopped this years ago. I'm sorry, Justina." That night was painful but necessary. The first honest conversation our family had had in decades. The following days were uncomfortable but healing. When Amanda arrived that weekend, we had a family meeting that lasted hours. There were more tears, confessions, and ultimately the beginnings of understanding. I decided to stay at my parents' house but established clear boundaries. I would pay a fair rent for my contract earnings. I would help with household expenses, but financial decisions would be transparent. And most importantly, no more comparisons. My mother agreed to see a therapist, initially reluctant, but pushed by my father, who to everyone's surprise had found his backbone. "We almost lost both our daughters," he told her. "We need help." My contract with the startup went well. 3 months extended to 6, and eventually they offered me a permanent position as their creative director. I found an apartment nearby, close enough to stay connected with my parents, but far enough to maintain my independence. Amanda and I started having weekly video calls, just the two of us. We were getting to know each other as adults, without our mother's influence coloring our relationship. She confessed her envy of my creative freedom. I admitted my jealousy of her confidence. We laughed about shared childhood memories and supported each other through adult challenges. 6 months after the night I finally stood up, our family dynamics had transformed. Not perfect. Real change takes time. But noticeably healthier. My mother still occasionally slipped into old habits, but now I could gently remind her, "We don't do comparisons anymore," and she would catch herself. Amanda visited for Thanksgiving, bringing her new boyfriend David, something she'd never done before because, as she put it, "I couldn't subject anyone I cared about to the performance pressure." During dinner, my mother looked around the table and said something that would have been unimaginable a year earlier. "I'm thankful for my 2 daughters who are both exceptional in their own unique ways." I caught Amanda's eye across the table, and we shared a smile of amazed disbelief. Finding my voice that night wasn't about winning an argument or hurting my mother. It was about truth. Painful but necessary truth that ultimately gave our family a chance to heal. I learned that my worth wasn't dependent on anyone's approval or how I measured up to someone else. I still have moments of doubt, times when my mother's voice echoes in my head telling me I'm not good enough. But now I can recognize those thoughts as old recordings, not reality. Amanda and I talk about our ongoing healing journey. "It's like deprogramming from a cult," she jokes, "but there's truth in it. We're learning to define success on our own terms." My relationship with my parents continues to evolve. There are setbacks, old patterns that resurface. But there's also new understanding, moments of genuine connection that were impossible before. The most valuable lesson I've learned is that speaking your truth, even when it's terrifying, can set you free. Not immediately, not perfectly, but genuinely. Have you ever had to stand up to someone who constantly compared you to others? How did you find your voice? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about finding strength in difficult family situations. Thank you for listening, and remember, your worth is never defined by comparison to anyone else.